My name is Adam Martin. I am the founder of F5 Project. I'm a 5-time felon, and I know what it feels like to be released from jail or a treatment center or detox or a homeless shelter into nothing. And so the idea was like, could we do a better job by providing services in an F5 fashion, which was the function key on a keyboard, which was like refresh. So like every time we met someone, what would it look like if we treated them like none of that existed?
So F5 Project is a nonprofit organization. We help people who have addiction issues, homelessness, mental health, and ultimately try and give them a chance to change.
I had seen some trends happening with peer support where people with like real lived experience, they were going back to where they came from and they were helping people out of those situations. There's no better way to get over the stuff that happened to you in your past than to go and help people who are currently experiencing it.
If you are just tuning in, you're listening to F5 Recovery Radio here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. Super happy to be here. It's a lovely Wednesday morning, February 22nd. I'm joined with my co-hosts, Adam Martin and Kristen Huvenen. This show, if you've never listened to us before, is just basically just a show that just kind of talks about all things recovery. We have different themes and other fun shenanigans and things that we share. So it's just always just a good opportunity to be able to come and speak from the heart from just people in recovery. No experts, and we're just living life. So, Kristen, how you feeling? How's your life living right now?
Good. It's been an interesting week. My husband went to South Dakota with all the car keys, so I'm driving my 18-year-old son's van, which turns out horrible. I mean, I can't believe I've been making this kid drive this thing, but he seems happy with it, so I think everybody's first car is a junker.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think my first car, I think it was my dad's Buick, I think. But luckily, like, he took care of his car, so like,
oh yeah,
kind of got a little lucky with that. But yeah, I don't know. So that's awesome. So, obviously you got here, so thankfully you're safe.
I did. Yep. I think my first car was a Buick Special. I think it was $100.
Nice.
There was a lot of metal between me and whatever I would hit. So I'm sure I hit something. Anyway, so what did you pick for a topic today?
Yeah, so today's topic, we're going to be talking about helping versus enabling. So it's something we always try to, so for those, again, who are not familiar with the show, we always try to pick a different topic, something recovery themed and related. And so I always try to have just a different kind of topic, but I felt like today, like I wanted to go a little deeper and something a little bit more, I won't say intense, but just something a little more, I don't know.
It is intense. It's like emotionally charged for so many people, and
I know. But
struggling to find healthy boundaries and stuff like that.
But
so why did you pick it?
I think I picked it because it was kind of a conversation that I was having with one of my, I guess, people that I went to treatment with. Like after a meeting, we were kind of just talking about that because he just had some people or had a particular family member that he was still kind of helping navigate, and not even in an addiction sphere. It just seems like, I mean, I don't know the person, but seems like a pretty solid person, but just helping them like financially and just like trying to get them in school because they're like, oh, he went to school, so like, oh, you need to go to school, and kind of doing a lot of these different things. And so it was like, as he was talking about it, and I'm like, dude, but then it's like, okay, how do I help him navigate this relationship with his cousin or nephew or something, to help him not just go above and beyond for this person. And again, a lot of his responses of, nephew, whoever he was, of what he was doing with all the resources and time and things that he was doing for him, just never really amounted to anything fruitful. And so it was like, okay, so like, you know what, this would be really good to like talk with like you two about, and just like to really be able to see from that perspective of that. But I mean, so the kind of the first question just always makes it easy. How do you define the difference between helping and enabling?
Oh man, it's early for this. I think that when you're emotionally involved, it's hard to have healthy boundaries and be helpful without enabling. And you have oftentimes the most stressful part is that you have expectations that either this person doesn't know about, or they're not realistic, or they're punitive, or it's just stuff like, that you can't control, the things you cannot change. It's hard not to be overwhelmed by all of that and think you know what the right thing is. It's like when you give $5 to the guy on the corner, and oftentimes I hear people say, well, I bet he's just going to buy booze with that or whatever. Sure. And I just think, well, was that why you did that? Did you, you give because it feels good, and after that, it's none of your business, really, right. And maybe that's what he needs for the day. There's just not, we have all of our, I think it should go this way. But I think enabling is just doing for others what they can do for themselves. So to switch that into empowering instead of doing it for them with all these unrealistic expectations makes it emotionally exhausting. Yep. And it's scary. I know that families of people that are addicted are just so scared. They're scared that something terrible is going to happen. And that might be the case, but I always said, I protected my kids from everything, and now that they're older, the only thing I can't protect them from is themselves, and that's right. The scariest part, But yeah. What do you think?
I think for me, and I realized as I was with the stem from was kind of judging my friend in recovery and his reactions and the things he was doing, oh my God, you should just stop, right? But I think for me, the helping versus enabling, a lot of my struggle is I want to enable sometimes, I want to be, or at least in the beginning it feels like I'm helping. I don't know that I'm enabling until to use your example of giving that guy money, I won't know I'm enabling until I see him take the money I gave, for example, and went to the store and bought booze or drugs or whatever. So I won't know. But in that moment, it's okay, he's asking for money, needs money for food, or if it's a family member, a friend, or whatever, it's hey, I'm just helping him in that situation. It's no, this is what I want to do for that person because I care about him and I want to be helpful and but I think you don't always necessarily know that you're enabling, and I think that's a lot of where my struggle was. It's in the beginning, helping is good, right? But I think down the line, then you kind of see the, well, how much help are you doing? Am I over helping? Is that enabling? I don't know. I think that's where my struggle is.
When I start to find myself looking for an end result, if I do this, then, you know what I mean? I'll just put my cape on and swoop in and save somebody. And that's just not how it works. We have family members that are all, I know I wanted you to feel taller. I got Adam a tall chair.
Oh my God. I can't even.
His feet are going to dangle.
Oh. Okay, hey.
Look at how tall you are.
I don't even think this thing reaches.
I got a droopy microphone. It's like a bad date.
Okay. I'm gonna stand.
Okay. Well, yeah. There's another stool too. I just thought you'd.
I don't think that reaches.
We're still figuring out the microphones, but. I don't even know what to talk about. Family members that want to be in recovery or don't, and someone would like them to be, or you'd like them to be, or you're afraid for their safety and stuff like that. I guess over the years of trying to help people, you just try and create a safe environment. You have to have ground rules. You have to have you can be here if you're intoxicated. You just can't have people here. I want you to be safe. you can't have like drugs here, whatever your rules are, like I'll help you out, but I'm not a moron. I'm gonna hide my valuables and I'm not giving you money. But just the unconditional love is there, and not like guilting them into doing what you think is appropriate, or like saying, if you don't get sober, I'm gonna kick you out, or stuff like that. That isn't effective, or I haven't seen it be effective. But just to know that like there's help out there, you can come to me and do that, but I can't do it for you. But that's really scary to let people fail.
Right. Can you see if the mic can hear me on the radio? Is it showing?
Yep.
It shows my individual mic. Oh,
you gotta be closer to it, but
yeah. Okay. What was the question?
Question was, how do you define enabling versus helping?
Could Kirsten be the MacGyver of microphones right now?
Well, this thing is
I think it's
having a bad day.
Right?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Technical difficulties. At least he's not pushing buttons. Look at there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're MacGyver. Yeah.
Who's
Well
the
played.
MacGyver now?
Yeah.
Single
I
life.
think maybe we should commit to like I'm gonna talk to Christy and see if I can just get here at like 7:30 or something, so that way we can, set this all up before we get started. So, what was the question?
Yeah, helping versus enabling. How do you define it? How do you define helping?
Versus enabling. Okay,
That's
so
the theme. In the question.
there's a couple different things I think that you have to take into consideration. One, is it hurtful? Are you being hurt by by helping them, right? But you're still doing it. That's one. Most family members that I've seen are more what would you call it, wanting the recovery for some people than the person who's actually needing to be in recovery. And so I think it's like it can be hurtful in the sense of like they have you end up getting super high expectations, because you're putting in work for them. And it's just as much of a disease to be afflicted by someone's alcoholism or addiction as it is with someone who actually has it. And to be honest, I think it's almost more hurtful for the loved one because they don't have any like release or relief or
That'd
whatever.
Be awful.
Like for alcoholics and addicts, you can essentially blame the anger, the resentment, the frustration, all that stuff on the drinking, like on something where the loved one is having to blame it on the person, which creates resentment. And then you're walking on eggshells, and they're not doing what you want them to do, and then it just turns into you look very similar behavior and thought process as the actual addict.
Right.
So it's it's different from what I've seen for everybody, because I've seen some guys who've had everything literally taken care of for them, and eventually through some episodes or whatever, eventually got sober. And then you'll hear people say, well, they got to hit bottom. Well, they definitely didn't hit bottom. And then some other people, they need everything taken from them.
Right.
And they need to live life on life's terms, and they just kind of grow, because of it. So it's different for everybody. So is there an absolute answer? No. I think that you have to be the judge and be honest with yourself on what's hurting you and what you're capable of, and what's hurting them. And so what's the answer for enabling and being helpful? You won't know until you know.
Yep.
Because the one thing that I've noticed with family members or friends of people when they are questioning it is like they always have this thought in the back of their head that if they do one more thing, it might work.
Be the thing.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like an addict or an alcoholic where it's like, I'm just going to use a little bit, or I'm just going to have this one beer and I'm going to control and enjoy it. And here's how, right? It's the same thing for the loved one or the person who's enabling is if I just give them $10 more, or if I just pay for the hotel room, or if I just whatever, And so what it really comes down to is, what are you okay with? And if you're hurting all the time or resentful and angry, then it's obviously not, you're enabling, because you're doing more than what you feel comfortable with. So
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Kirsten, do you have any like other things of, because maybe somebody listening right now on the radio or on TikTok or Facebook might be like, I don't know, I might be enabling, I might not be. Are there any other? So Adam had mentioned a few of different things that could be, you might be enabling if. Do you have some other things that he didn't mention that can help people?
I think a big one is like, if your happiness is contingent on their actions, you are way too involved in their recovery or lack of recovery, or it's an illness and it's a process, and they will figure it out. If they want to find recovery, they will find it, because if I want to find a drink, I will find it. And so reasons like I don't have a ride, all of those things, those are easy to help with, and to connect them with someone in the recovery community. But mostly, anytime you start to feel emotionally exhausted by it, you have to care for yourself, or you're honestly not any good to anybody else, and you're miserable. So that's awful. And there's Al-Anon, and there's CODA, and that's Codependence Anonymous. They have those meetings in the area too.
We do family group at the Ridge too.
Yeah, nice.
And I got a message about it on Tuesday last week from one of the individuals that has been going for the last 3 weeks, and she said that like it is awesome to finally have a safe place to be able to talk about the things that are affecting me with that, because of someone or a loved one or whatever. And Tom runs that group, Tom Fry, and he is like he's like the cool like dad, when I see him, I'm like, man, I like, if I was like a kid, I would be like, he would have been a great like grandpa. I hope he's listening to this. He's gonna be like, why you always say I'm old? But he's super laid back. He worked at another place for about 5 years, so he's got that experience, and then he came on with us and really liked the whole idea of like peer support and LACs, working in a hybrid kind of environment for groups, and he's just, I don't know, he's awesome, and he runs the family group, and I think he doesn't have experience with being an addict or an alcoholic, but he definitely has experience of being afflicted by it, and so it's been great, like seeing it develop. So
how
that's
big are the family groups?
It's I think there's only like 4 or 5 people that are going currently, so it's and it's on, I believe it's on Wednesdays, I believe.
Okay.
So I'll post it on my Facebook or whatever on the schedule, and then if you're interested, you can go to that too.
So does the loved one have to have someone in treatment there to go?
We made it for free.
Nice.
And open to the public. So it's the idea for us is that families have paid enough.
Yeah, for sure.
And whether they're paying for minutes on people's phones and while they're incarcerated, or they're paying for their hotel rooms, or in some certain they're paying for their insurance premiums so that they can get into treat whatever. So we made the family group specifically free because of that.
Yep. So this next question that I have, I think it's definitely something that I'm finding myself struggling with a lot more recently, or at least in the past couple of weeks, than I have in a while. Do you feel like, so for me, I feel like I've been an enabler, or I've been enabling more people now in this stage of my recovery than I have ever in my recovery, and definitely more than what I used to. Because I think before I was enabling selfishly, because I was like, oh man, I'm doing all these really bad things. So if I just enable some other people, then I can like justify my really, really terrible actions. But now that I'm doing okay and doing I'm doing good things, but there's just more people, like whether it's participants I'm helping on my caseload, or just, I don't know, people, some different folks at church who are just really, really going through some different things. It's just like, all right, man, I'm just like stepping up and just doing all the work.
Yeah.
More now than have been, and I don't know, and I haven't quite pinpointed why, but have you guys?
Who are you doing all the work? Why do you?
I'm doing more work for people, because usually I have really healthy boundaries. Usually I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like, here's some advice, here's some things that I did, you do it, let me know, kind of like guide. But now it's been more of like, I'm just doing the work.
Are you just talking about like people in like general, or
yeah?
Like
I mean,
people...
I have some specific people that I know I'm enabling, but without sharing.
Well,
their
Cindy
names.
kind of asked that question too, where even with people who are like in recovery, serving people who are like new to recovery, like where's the line between enabling and here's the thing, like from my experience, I guess that's always a trump card whenever I say that. From my experience, it's pretty easy for people that are in recovery to see if they're enabling, right? Like it's mainly because they at one time got sober, right? And knew and probably went through the same thing that person's going through. So they, if you're paying for stuff, you know what I mean? Like those are the easy ones. Like I'm not going to give you money, right? I'm not your banker. I'm not your taxi, right? I will help out with those things from time to time, but then like if they're creating a dependency upon those things, then you're not being, helpful. Like if they're putting in, you can't expect people who are new to recovery to put in a ton of effort, right? Like a lot of times it's like just building an environment for trust and understanding, and then eventually that turns into effort, I think, if as long as there's clarity and communication and they see you're compassionate, like they'll usually put in the work. But if they're not putting in any work and you're just like you're setting up the appointments and you're making sure that they're up on time and stuff like that, like I'm not your dad, I don't even do that for my kids.
I don't either.
So if that's your expectation, then you should probably find someone else or whatever. So I think it should, even if you're mentoring or being a peer support for 20 people, it should not feel like it's a full-time job.
No.
It shouldn't feel like you're overwhelmed. It shouldn't. If you're doing, the taxi driving and setting up the appointments and stuff like that, like, I can understand maybe the first couple weeks, especially as somebody gets out of prison.
Right.
But if you're still doing that for them after 3 months, then you're not a peer support. Right. You're their mom.
Yeah. And you'll resent them quickly.
Yeah.
And you're not like you're not empowering them to have their own recovery. Like, I think when someone invites me into their life to give advice on recovery and stuff, it's not, I'm not there to fix everything, because I can barely fix anything of my own, but just to empower them to make those connections to thrive. And I think anytime something's handed to me, I don't feel like I earned it, or I'm not as proud of it or something. But if I go get it myself and it was uncomfortable and I had to challenge myself to do more, then that feels really good, But yeah, when I start doing things for people because I want the pat on the back, it's always selfish, like even the kindest thing I do is selfish because it feels good. I like to do nice things. But if I'm waiting for like, put my cape on and just oftentimes that does not work out well at all. And with like my first sponsor, when I started going to college to do counseling, and I'll never forget it. She's like, she said two things. If this ever becomes your recovery, if this job ever becomes your personal recovery, you need to quit it because you will lose all of it. And if you're going to take credit for people's success, you have to take credit for their failure. I was like, well, then I'm out, because the odds are, you know what I mean, not super winning in this ball game.
Right.
But the caring for yourself and keeping my recovery, like I have to get to my meetings and talk to my sponsor and do stuff like that. And there was a lot of times where that line got really foggy, and And I was like, I'm busy. I have children. I have a career, blah, blah, blah. And then my meetings just got put on the back burner, and I slowly but surely lose my mind, you know?
Right.
So I've tried it both ways, and she was right, which is, why can't I just listen? And
Right.
I'm like, no, I'll try it my own way. But
Yeah.
anytime you're exhausted by helping, you should not be exhausted by helping, you know?
Yeah.
Well, if you're just tuning in, this is F5 Recovery Radio here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. Want to just shout out some people on TikTok who are viewing live, and I see some comments are coming through on Facebook Live. So I want to just thank you all so much for joining us online as well as the radio. So that's always exciting to be able to have some people listen to us and sharing. And today's topic, as we always have, try to have a different topic each week. Today's topic is discussing the difference between enabling versus helping. And so
Yeah, we got some questions.
Yeah.
Are you cool with that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
dive in.
So Laura asked, what's the best challenge? What does that say? What's the best challenge that I had come to me in recovery, learning how to earn what I have and stand on my own 2 feet? I start getting things handed to me, and I start taking things for granted, and I forget how hard it was to work, and then I forget and appreciate what they were handed to me. How do I...
Oh, Laura. I love Laura. She's great.
Oh, you know her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi, Laura. And then Cindy said, as being a peer support, I want to watch them grow with the right tools that I received.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marisa said, the thing with enabling and codependency is that the person doing it usually has no idea, especially family.
Right.
I would agree somewhat with what Marisa is saying. I think if you feel like crap,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like eventually you're going, it's going to be one or two things that are going to happen. One, you're going to stop,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Right.
nobody wants to feel like crap. The body naturally wants to take the easiest route to feel good.
Mhm.
Right.
So if you feel like crap all the time, you know, it will probably stop eventually. At least for guys, I've seen that happens a lot quicker than it does for females when it comes to that. It doesn't mean that it just, usually because females are caretakers, so they
We're supposed to
naturally...
care.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
supposed to care. But the other thing that happens is that people, if you continue to do it, you become resentful, and it creates barriers, and you push them away eventually anyways. So
Mhm.
it's like, they may not know, but they know, like, to their core, something's wrong.
Right.
And it's not working or whatever. So, but I mean, it takes a while. You know, sometimes moms think they're just being moms,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I just have a different kid, so I need to, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. So anyways, and Laura, I don't really know how to like what Laura's question was. I can read it again. What's
Oh,
the best challenge
was
that
thinking about
I
myself.
had? Laura, retype your question, because I'm kind of having a hard time understanding what it means. And then Cindy, thanks for the comments.
And I think it's important to remember that everybody's journey is just a little bit different. Just because mine worked for me the way it did, I have to respect that other
it wasn't
people.
a question.
I have to
My
respect
bad.
that other people have their own journey, you know. And even if they fall flat on their face, they're still moving forward. It's like Adam said last week. This whole recovery is a process, and it starts for Adam, it started 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The struggle bus pulled in.
Oh, so okay, I understand. That was the challenge for her, was learning how to earn what she had and to stand on her own 2 feet. And because she would start getting things handed to her and start taking things for granted. So that was a thing for her,
Mhm.
you know. So.
She's got a heck of a story. If you ever get a chance to chat with her.
Yeah. Thanks for the clarification, Laura and Christy. So,
Yeah. So do you think I mean, for that same kind of perspective of if you're the person getting enabled, how do you process that? Have you ever been enabled? Wait, am I not? You know what I'm saying? Have you ever been on the receiving end of someone enabling you?
Well, for sure.
in your
I'm
addiction?
I'm a little shady, and I'm kind of a con artist, and I'm a good liar, so I can get a lot of things. And usually if somebody is doing that for me, I don't feel bad. But
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely takes. I didn't earn anything. I didn't have to feel my way through the uncomfortable parts of that, and it just becomes, not as meaningful, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate
for
transparency.
me, so there was probably many times where it looked like when people were helping me, like, because I was constantly like going in and out and relapsing and ending up in jail, Valley News Live, most wanted, whatever. And
Most wanted.
and it probably would look like in those groups that it was like they were enabling me, right? Because they kept taking me back.
Right.
But I think that was like, for me, that was, they weren't giving me anything other than what I exactly needed, right? So like, if I came back and I was homeless, a couple of the guys would let me sleep on their couch for like 3 days.
Okay.
Right? I don't think that's enabling, because I wasn't allowed to be there if they weren't there, right? And I could only sleep on the couch, and I could not make any long-term commitments to be there.
Right.
They would, if they had, food in the cupboards, they'd let me eat it, but they never gave me money. So that was very structured, going from couch to couch to couch or whatever. And at the same time, it like created a vulnerability that I had to be, rules, and I had to follow them. And if I didn't, I was out. Like, they didn't give a crap about, if you had a place to live or not. Like, if you don't do what we do and like stay in recovery or whatever, then you can go where they don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, and so, but at the same time, they were like super like loving and graceful, like while I was there. And so, and they always took me back, no matter if I relapsed or if I screwed up or if I caught a charge somewhere else and then came back. It was, because I stole, when I got that 5 felonies, one of the guys that that helped me when I came back was the guy that I committed those felonies on when I stole the U-Haul and broke into that business. Like, of all people,
Right.
It's funny because somebody stole a U-Haul earlier this week, and I was like, wasn't me, guys. And the guy, Jeff, comments on there. He's like, I remember that day or whatever. And he was the guy that I robbed, and he was one of the first people that when I came back, because of his lived experience in recovery, was able to separate my behavior from the principles which he lives by today.
That's
and
huge.
I walked into the group, and he like gave me a big hug and told me that he was glad I was there.
Yeah.
Is that enabling? It would be if me and Jeff lived together, maybe.
Right.
Maybe,
Like, and he was my brother, and he was just like, but he didn't get, like, he wasn't out anything by helping me. If anything, we both gained an insane amount of trust for each other.
Yeah.
And so, can that happen in other places? Yeah, but it's different because I know Jeff may not, the titles and the details may be different, but I know he did the same thing in his life.
Right.
And it made it a lot easier for me to talk to him and like create an environment for growth. That's the benefit of lived experience.
Right.
It's like a doctor or a plumber. Like, who do they learn from the best? Plumbers.
Right.
Doctors from doctors, teachers from other teachers, right? Like, it makes sense that if you want to build a recovery community, that you got to have people in recovery that you're working with and building with. So
Yeah.
And the beauty of recovery is that, like you said, we don't shoot our wounded. Like, and that's the grace you talk about when, because people are always like, I don't want to go back. They'll think who. It doesn't matter. They're just happy that you're there. There's no judgment. Like, we've all dug some deep holes, and we just want you to be okay and make it. So whatever you did before, if you're willing to take the action now, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you think there needs to be any accountability, like, for a person who's either has been an enabler or been enabled? So, for example, to Jeff, like, that you see him in this room, do you like apologize and say, "Hey, I'm sorry," or anything like that, or is it just kind of like water under the bridge and just not bring it up because you know?
In that particular
I'm just using that example
That's
because
a
you
pretty
just shared
good.
it.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
a bit like I stole a bunch of stuff. I mean, I didn't end that night ended with like 3 different businesses and a U-Haul, and I mean, I was on a tear. Like I got caught because because I was supposed to, but I got.
It's illegal.
When you get time to like look back at things in the bird's eye view, and then you kind of look at like so, I went to Sunmart, and I went to go buy smokes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just stole like $80,000 worth of stuff, and I'm gonna go buy a pack of smokes for like $4. But I went in, but no one was behind the counter, and so then I just jumped behind the counter and grabbed a carton and I left. Right. And so when I parked the vehicle and the cops were called about the vehicle, they went in and they searched it. And apparently with cigarettes, there's tracking numbers to the stores that they're sent to.
Oh.
Right. And so what they did is they found the store, and then they watched the video, and because they know who I am, they figured it out
Most
real
wanted.
quickly. And then, they call anyways, long story short, when I came back, I think Jeff was probably, he could either create the environment for the opportunity for that sorry to happen, or I think he could have done what I think most people would have done, and he would have excommunicated me from his life, and then just let the justice system figure it out or whatever.
Yep.
And so, I mean, there was multiple people that I owed amends to that, but Jeff was the first one that I went to, because I had a recovery relationship with him, and I was going to have to see him every week. And so, and plus it really hurt because I knew Jeff from recovery, and he was my employer. That's why he got robbed, is because he was the guy who was employing me, and I broke into that business. And so there was a level of like, what would you call it? Like, I was really hurt that I hurt him, because he was my recovery buddy. And all the bridges that I had burnt, the one places where I hadn't done that really yet was in recovery. And so when that happened, it was like the final straw. Like I literally burned everything to the ground, even to the people who identified with me were like, Adam's not going to make it. I remember a time when
He never gives up, though.
Yeah, me and like 6 or 7 other guys decided, our route, our recovery platform wasn't the way, and we could start drinking again. And we left and started this little, group of like church, right? It was like a church group, because we were better, And so one night we were like all in the basement, and we were like having drinks and stuff. And like halfway through the night, the guys who left the recovery group with me approached me, and they're like, yeah, we think you should go back. Like, I felt like I was like the Dave Mustaine of like, recovery. They were like, man, you party too much. You need to go back. I was like, I met you guys in that room, and you
talked me into
I was
this.
like the alcoholic of alcoholics.
Yeah.
It was like,
We got a problem, but you got a problem.
yeah, you have a big problem. And so anyways, Jeff was the first one, and I went to him and I told him, I was like, dude, I screwed up, man, I'm bad. It wasn't like a typical amends. It was like buddy code. Like I need help, and I screwed up. And ever since then, Jeff he's been a part of my life for the last 9 years in some way or another. And so is there a level, I think for Jeff, there wasn't an expectation. It was like, if it happens, it happens.
Right.
And I think for me, that's the same way I have to be with people who wrong me or hurt me or whatever, is that it's not that I don't think there should be accountability. I don't want to have expectations on other people, because every time I do, I fall short.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm not the one to hold them accountable.
Right.
And truthfully, none of that is personal. It's just
It's
chaos.
alcoholism,
You know
and
what I mean?
addiction.
It's a
right?
disease.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with me. I just happen to be the one who owned a U-Haul. What were you going to do with a U-Haul?
I was going to
You didn't have anything to move.
I was moving stolen goods,
Oh, sure.
and I was going to go to the black market.
Oh.
And
Where's
but-
that?
Exactly. No, I didn't realize it was like the cloud, right, of like goods. I thought it was like an actual store in Minneapolis.
The black market.
The
called
black market, yeah. And I was
I'm
gonna
sure.
go and like offload a bunch of stolen goods. So
Yeah, I totally get it. Yep.
yeah.
You could have probably talked me into that road trip too.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we just want to shout out, of course, some more amazing underwriters for the programming here on KRFF LPFM Radio Free Fargo. It's being underwritten today by Flatland Guitar and Lutherie. Flatland Guitar is your full-service guitar shop and your exclusive dealer for Yamaha, Taylor, Paul Reed, Smith guitars, and other brands. They sell guitars on consignment, they take trade-ins, and have a full-service on-site repair center. Check out Flatland Guitar and Lutherie on Facebook, or you can visit them in person at 1450 25th Street South here in Fargo. Hours are Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, Saturdays 10 to 5, and closed on Sundays. Kind of like Chick-fil-A. Closed on Sunday.
I don't know that I've been there.
Why is it closed?
Because it's like
'cause
a
they go to
religious
church.
church base.
It's like a church
Mhm.
restaurant.
Mhm. The CEO or owner is a Christian, so this allows be able to
Sure.
encourage their staff to be able to find a church home or some sort of higher power
Oh,
place on Sunday.
is that what they say, or to go to church?
Well,
They say
church.
like go find God.
Mhm. I mean, they can't directly say that. Oh,
I
maybe
mean,
they
they
can.
probably
Yeah,
Chick-fil-A, they
could.
could probably
If
do
they
whatever
own
they
it.
wanted.
They could say sleep in.
That's where I find God, when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
Not really, but that's probably what I would tell them. I'd be, if I worked at Chick-fil-A, I'd be such a pain. Or whatever.
Oh.
I probably
I
would.
know. That's one
Yeah.
button I can't help but argue.
Yeah.
I just, yeah.
We should have a show and talk about higher powers and maybe not.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
I
I
dig
don't
it.
know.
I really
Dude,
I think it's fascinating.
it
and it's
is.
Super fascinating.
awesome.
I went to I got super into it for a while where I really like theology and philosophy, and you know why? Because I think we can, as long as people are willing to engage in discussion without taking it personal.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you'll find some, like, the most random person that you thought would have been like, oh, this guy's gonna like be a, you know, kind of a pain about having this discussion or whatever. Like, he's just gonna think he's that. But then you like get into it and you're like, man, this guy knows his stuff, and he's like super engaging, you know.
Yeah.
It happens from time to time. It's usually, from what I've seen, people who are newly converted that struggle with it. Like, they can't just have a conversation. It's like absolute truth, and if you don't believe it right now, something bad is gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm already at the bad. I don't know if you come back from that.
Yeah, but there's like I see even the recovery circles kind of going down the same path or whatever as like religion did, where it's like, you know, like their platform is the way, you know,
Yeah.
and they just get really hostile with the idea of anyone, you know, any other kind of like. It's like they created a monopoly of like, this is the only way, and then if somebody does get sober a different way, they're like, well, he wasn't a real addict
Right,
or
yeah.
alcoholic, or you know, or what was it this week? Oh, the NA beer thing.
Yeah.
That's happening.
Yeah.
Like, it's becoming kind of trendy for mock
Tails.
drinks or whatever.
Mocktail.
Mocktails, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And NA beer and stuff, and you know, and I'm like, yeah, that's super cool. You know, if I could do it, I'd do it. You
Right.
know, I mean, also I would also drink, you know, 3.2 beer, you
Right.
know, instead of 5.8 or whatever it is, if I could. But you know, even the environment triggers me. I'm just
Oh,
like,
for
man,
sure.
I can't. I'm holding a Heineken that says NA on it.
I could be
I'd ra-
having way more
I could
fun.
be having a Heineken, you know, instead. I just don't have the control mentally for that kind of stuff or whatever. So, you know, I know there's a group of people out there that do that, and it's like, it's cool that they can, you know, but like a lot of people, I've heard a lot of horror stories of people who started that way,
Yeah.
you know, and that platform of like mocktails and NA, you know, where they're okay with that is not a majority. The
No.
majority is abstinence 100% of anything that even looks like it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I mean, if you're out in a social environment, you know, and stuff, like it even says in the books that, you know, we read, if you have a good reason to be there,
Sure.
then be there, you know. But, and I did it when I worked at High Point. Like, I was in sales and I was constantly in situations where there was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, would I have, if there was an option for an NA beer or whatever, would I've done? I always just got Red Bull or ginger ale. So that was kind of like the international signal that you're sober, you know. So, I mean, it, you know, to each their own, I guess. I'm not a fan of like promoting it because there's so many different kinds of recovery out there. It's the same reason I don't promote what platform I do.
Right.
Yeah.
What's more important is the recovery,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, many ways to the. Yeah, just quality of life for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this last like 10 minutes, like kind of the last question when I was doing some research to talk about today's topic, I was learned that there's a concept. From the teachings of Al-Anon, they have this concept called detachment with love. Have you guys ever heard of that before?
Yeah.
That was a brand new term to me that I just read
how many
about.
Al-Anon does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Oh
I don't
my
know.
gosh.
None. They detach and let it screw itself.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That actually makes them sound really awesome.
Yeah, they are really awesome. Oh my gosh.
No, yeah, usually Al-Anon jokes from people who are in recovery are like the opposite.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
So that one was good.
We get credit for like, oh, you went to your job today. You know what I mean?
My best one was when I was at a meeting and this guy was telling his story and he was like, yeah, then I, you know, threw up and then I downed another beer or whatever, and everyone's laughing, you know, and there's probably people watching right now like, why are they laughing, you know? But then the Al-Anon was like, I had to clean that up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought about that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was such
Sorry,
an
go back, detaching.
yeah, but it was such an interesting
love, yeah.
concept of like, I'm gonna love you, but I'm gonna just separate myself and let you flounder, fall, consequences, do all
Yeah.
the things,
I have
and
to
that
be
act
healthy.
of, I have to be healthy, but I'm still gonna continue to love you, while, you know, I mean, obviously I was the person in addiction, so like what it was just like put a new perspective of like what my wife and my mom, specifically, like those two are probably the two most critical people in my recovery process of like why it was so hard and why it was they couldn't understand me, but then I could understand them. I could understand why they needed to do that, they were loving me and they were helping, but like it was a very clear, like define, like this is not how things are gonna go, and
That's
it just
good
yeah.
for you.
But it just, I mean, it took 5 years, but I had never heard that term before of like this, that's what they were doing. They were making that conscious, actionable. We will love you. We say we love you, but this is what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
and this is what we're not gonna do.
Yeah.
And then thankfully, you know, obviously I just kind of stayed with it and stayed in recovery, but just, I don't know. It was
But
just
they gave you room. They empowered you to do for yourself instead of, just like, oh, you blew all your money on craps, or I don't even know what you do, but I'll pay your rent. You know what I mean? Like that's not helping. That's not helping.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Detach with love.
Yeah, I think for people who are like in recovery, or at least long-term recovery, that just comes natural. Like when we are dealing with people who are trying to be in recovery, I think maybe at first we give them, you know, we'll probably give them more chances than most, you know, probably would or whatever. But eventually the time comes where you realize, like, I'm hurting this person.
Right.
And I've never been in the position where I felt like that until my son got older. And then he was kind of, you know, living that lifestyle for a while, and he's doing amazing today. Like, I am so proud of him. And it got to the point where, you know, I had to kick him out.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing. And he probably thought, oh, this is so easy for you, right? Because I'm, you know, I put on the face, you know, and the, you know, the authority, you know, but man, I couldn't even, I had to like completely detach from him because it was so hurtful to know that I was like kicking him out. And I probably dealt with more, you know, in the moment kind of trauma of doing that, because I, you know, my history with him too is that I wasn't there early on because I was using and drinking all the time, and I was a felon, you know what I mean? And so when I had to like do the thing that, you know, were people that had to do for me or whatever, man, it hurt because it was just like, you know, because I just want to help him.
Right.
And I just want to love on him and I want him to be there. And I realized that, you know, during that time that I'm the last. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
We're too emotionally connected to each other. We're never going to be able to have a genuine conversation without, you know, because family members are always looking for something when you're having conversations that they end up, without even knowing it, that they'll end up using against you, right? Or, you know, or it just triggers memories of, you know, whatever. Like, it's just, it's not healthy for either side.
Right.
And I just had to like let him go. Right. And letting go looks like kicking out. Right. And then what happened is that he had to live life.
Yeah.
And he learned probably in months what would have probably taken me years to do as a father.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard.
So it sounds like in that detaching with love actually helps a lot quicker. It's painful. I mean, from what
it's
I've
scary,
never had to do it, but
when my brother wanted to get sober, I'll never forget that phone call. He called at like 7:15 in the morning as I'm walking into work, and I thought, oh, this can't be good, you know. And he just said, I think I need to quit drinking and doing all of the things. And thank goodness for recovery. Thank goodness I had been around long enough to just say, like, this is going to be difficult. I'm going to get you some numbers. And I love you no matter what. Because you might not get it. You know what I mean? Because the odds are so awful. And I just wanted him to know that no matter what, I love him no matter what. Even if he can't get sober. Because he did, and he's amazing. I'm probably his biggest fan. I think he's just hilarious and so kind. But anyway,
my brother and my son, both sober, and both completely different platforms than mine.
What did they do?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Like
that's probably better.
You know, you know, I think my son has, you know, found it with like good actions and going to work, and like he got a girlfriend. He's really good to her, and like, you know, I think for some people, if they just get the life that they've been wanting or whatever, a lot of them change, right? And you know, he from time to time will have real good, you know, conversations about what to do in certain situations, but overall, like, he makes good decisions.
Yeah.
And then my brother was like, you know, he got help from people that I never would have ever asked for help. You know what I mean? Like, he just found something in them a lot more approachable than I would have. And so, like, and I could have ruined that. I could have been like, those guys, you don't want to hang out with those guys. They're not really doing recovery.
Right.
You know, but like, you know, luckily I had a mentor who was just like, you just got to stay out of their way. Whether it works or not, it's none of your business. Yeah. You know, like, that's their life. And so I just stayed out of it. And then if they ever asked questions, I would just share, you know, my experience without an agenda. Yeah. And leave it at that. And then looky look. They both got sober, and they're staying sober on places that I thought I never would have. Yeah. You know. Just because I didn't mess with it. Yeah. That's the thing that I think that we could all learn in recovery is there's so many different platforms. And if I pick them apart, I may be taking away an opportunity for my son to get sober. Right. Yeah. We're all traveling on different roads to the same place, and it's none of my business. It's not any of my business until I see something hurtful. Then I'll probably say something. Sure. Right. But if it's just something that I just don't think would work, that's none of my business. Right. You know. Yeah. And even if they never get sober, that too is their journey. That's their journey. And if they want information, of course they can come ask. But that's really hard for families. I don't need to you mean they're going to do stuff and not get sober? There's a chance. Yeah. There's completely a chance. Yeah. And sometimes you just got to love them while they're on their journey. Yeah.
Well, we have 60 seconds. You guys anything you want to share before we close?
We're going to talk about God next week.
Yeah. Ricky's the one who organized everything. What are we doing?
Ricky went to school to be he did. Yeah, he was a youth pastor. Yeah. So next week we're We're going to do F5 Christian radio. I'm kidding.
You're like, I don't know.
No, I appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. The Ridge is, has walk-ins, 7:30 to 11:30 at the F5 office. So if you're looking for treatment or you're looking for peer support or connections, you're more than welcome to stop by the office anytime. Well, between 7:30 and 11:30, Monday through Thursday.
Yeah, well, this is F5 Recovery Radio. This is your host, One Pretty Ricky, with my co-hosts, Adam Martin and Kirsten Huvenen. Thank you, KRFF 95.9 LPFM. We will see you again on the flip side.